The other person I want to introduce is Shannon Momolo. Shannon, I saw your name pop up before. There you are. Shannon oversees the enrollment office at PUSD. So she is here tonight in case you have questions that we're not quite sure of, or something comes up that's unique to your situation. So thank you for joining us, Shannon. So tonight we're going to be talking about open enrollment. That is the process for families to enroll in a school that is not their neighborhood assigned school. We're talking about this in relation to Pasadena Unified School District only. So if you are interested in a charter school, they have their own process. You need to check with them. The same thing with private schools or any other school district outside of PUSD. And we hope tonight that if you learn anything, that you will consider making a donation to Penn. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We are not affiliated with the school district, so we do rely on our friends in the community to be able to provide you with the information that we're going to be giving you tonight. Okay, Susan, I am ready to go.
All right, I'll go to the next slide.
Okay, so for the 2025-26 school year, students who turn 4 by September 1st, 2025 will be eligible for TK. That's transitional kindergarten. And those dates have been changing over the years, but next year, all 4-year-olds will be eligible. 5-year-olds will be eligible for kindergarten and 6-year-olds for first grade. Now, students who do not meet these deadlines for transitional kindergarten, you need to be 4 by September 1st. So if you're after that, you will not be able to enroll in TK. You will also not be able to select a date on the open enrollment application to apply for a different grade than what your age allows. So keep that in mind. Okay. So Pasadena Unified School District is an open enrollment district. That means that families can submit an application to attend a school other than their assigned neighborhood school. So before deciding to participate in open enrollment, we encourage families to visit your neighborhood school. Most students in the district do attend their neighborhood school, and by visiting, you just might find that it's the right place for your family. However, if you decide that there is a program or a school that is a better fit for your family, then you can apply for open enrollment. If you're looking for what your neighborhood school is, you can go to PUSD's school locator. There are 2 ways you can get there. One is that you can go to Penn's website and we have a link and that will take you to the school locator, or you can go directly to the PUSD's website and there is a Find My School and you can type in your address and that will tell you what your neighborhood school is. So here's an example where I put my address in. And then what happens is it shows that Webster is my elementary school. Marshall is a preference school for me, which I will explain a little later. Elliott is my middle school, and Pasadena High School is my high school. So if you don't know what your neighborhood school is, I encourage you to go there, go to the website and figure that out, and then visit that school first. Okay. Now, a lot of people will ask us, what's the best school or what's the right school? And the answer to that is there is not one right school for every family. I'm going to assume that a lot of you, all of you probably have been to Penn's website and you've seen the information that's available to help you make your decision about which schools might be a good fit for your family. But in case you haven't, you can go to our website. There are fact sheets about each PUSD school. There's contact information for parents at every school so that you can talk to them and find out firsthand what their experience is. There's school tour dates, and there's a lot more. So as I said, most families attend their neighborhood school. So we encourage you to check that out first. And again, please keep in mind that there's not one right school for every family, because every family has different priorities and values and needs. So you might prioritize a special program like the dual language immersion program or an international baccalaureate program. You might be looking for certain arts programs or sports or science. You might be looking for a school size or diversity that's different that your friends are looking for. So just because your friends say one school is right for them, it doesn't mean it's right for you. So once you decide which schools feel right for you, and you want to explore schools other than your neighborhood school, then you're going to look at open enrollment. So that's the school choice lottery process. In order to enroll your child in a school that's a dual language immersion program or a school other than where you are assigned, you will need to participate in open enrollment. So even if you live right next door to one of the dual language immersion programs or to Marshall, you will need to submit an open enrollment application. Also, new this year, all students who are interested in participating in TK for the 2025-26 school year must submit an open enrollment application. So even if you want to attend the TK program that's at your neighborhood school, you will need to submit an open enrollment application. Okay, so I'm going to repeat this so that it's clear. New for 2025-26, all families entering TK must submit an open enrollment application. Also next year, if you are currently enrolled in PUSD and you are attending a school but on permit, so you open enrolled into a school and you want to return to your neighborhood school, you will need to submit an open enrollment application. The reason you need to do that is so that the district can switch your registration from your lottery school to your neighborhood school. okay? So for example, I'm going to give an example on this one. For example, I met a parent a couple of weeks ago who lives in Sierra Madre, but she could not get a space there for TK. So she's enrolled her student at the Norma Coombs TK program, but next year for kindergarten, she wants to go to her home school in Sierra Madre. So she will need to complete an open enrollment application. So that way she switches from Norma Coombs to Sierra Madre. Okay. So next year for transitional kindergarten, all schools will have a TK program. There will be Spanish DLIP TK and English TK programs at Longfellow and Jackson. There will be Spanish DLIP TK at San Rafael next year. There'll be Mandarin TK at Field, and then there will be an Armenian TK program and an English TK at Webster. There will not be a French TK program, so the TK at Altadena Arts will be English only. Now, once you're accepted into a TK program, you can stay at that school until 5th grade. You do not need to go through open enrollment again in kindergarten. So what about the magnet schools like arts and STEM and STEAM or the International Baccalaureate program? If those schools are your neighborhood school, you do not need to submit an open enrollment application. But if they're not your neighborhood school, then you will submit an open enrollment application. So if your neighborhood school is Altadena Arts and you want to participate in the arts program, you can just sign up you can just register there. But if you want to participate in the French program, then you will need to submit an open enrollment application. Again, if you want to participate in any dual language program, you need to submit an open enrollment application. So how does the open enrollment lottery process actually work? So you'll submit one application per student. And we have the dates here, but we also have our calendar on our website so that you can see the dates. But again, you'll submit one application per student. If you have same grade twins, you will also submit one application per student. If you want them to go to the same school, then you need to put your preferences in the same order. So what schools will you list? You'll list the schools you prefer, ranked in your order of preference. So if somebody tells you there's a way to game the system and you should think about what schools take how many students, none of that matters. What you want to do is you want to list the schools you prefer, ranked in the order that you prefer them. Then the lottery system will assign each applicant a number. So let's say, for example, you're number 10. Then what will happen is the the lottery will go through and look at your first choice, your second choice, your third choice, and you'll get placed in a school based on your preference. So if there's space for you in the school you ranked first, you'll get placed there. If there isn't, it'll go to your second choice and your third choice. You should put every school that you prefer to your neighborhood assigned school. We keep hearing families say that people tell them they should just put one school and that they'll have a better chance of getting in. That is not true. You will have a better chance of getting in one of your top choices if you have a few schools that you prefer to your neighborhood school. If you're placed at your first choice school, then you'll accept your placement. And if you're new to PUSD, you'll register online for that school. If you do not receive your first choice placement and you want to remain on wait list for your preferred schools, you will also accept your placement and register. Then later, if you get one of your higher choice preferences, PUSD will transfer your registration to your new school placement. Now, you must accept your placement in order to remain on the wait list. If you don't accept your placement and register, then you'll be withdrawn from the open enrollment process. So I'm going to show you a couple of screens so you'll have an idea of what this looks like. So this is an example of your welcome screen. And you see at the top, there's some messages. So you'll be able to see what messages the district has been sending to you. And it'll show you where you are in the process. Okay. Now the next screen, you'll see this is a student who registered. This is a student who submitted an application for only one school. And that's Blair for the International Baccalaureate program. Now, because they just submitted one school, what will happen is you'll see withdraw, decline, and accept. If you want to accept this choice, then you'll press accept. If you want to decline it, then you will be withdrawn from the process, or you can just choose to withdraw. If you put more than one school, what will happen, what you'll see on your screen is you'll see the schools that you listed. So this student listed Washington Elementary STEM Magnet as their first choice, Jackson STEAM as their second choice, and Norma Coombs as a third choice. This family was placed at Norma Coombs Elementary. So you can see here it says offer accepted. So this is where they accepted their placement. Then they're waitlisted at their second choice and waitlisted on their first choice. If the family decides that they prefer to stay at Norma Coombs and they don't want to remain on the wait list for these top two, then they can withdraw from those two schools and leave their offer at Norma Coombs. If they want to remain on those wait lists, then then don't select withdraw. So you will remain on those wait lists then. And families will be contacted as spaces become available. So there's kind of a rolling admissions that will take place until 2 weeks before the next school year begins. Okay. So this is a copy of an example of the email that you'll get that will let you know what's happening in the process. So here you see this student received admission and the offer, and it's telling them what to do. So the bottom line is, read your emails, check your email. The emails will tell you exactly what you're supposed to do and when. It's really important that you put a correct email address and that you check your email regularly so that you don't miss things, because there are deadlines once you're accepted for how long you have before you accept your placement.
And Nancy, if I could just add, in this
Yes.
example, this is a student that applied through the programmatic or sibling priority program, which takes place in the fall. So that's why it's saying, please accept your placement by December. So your email message following the open enrollment lottery will be, please accept your placement by February 12th or whatever the date is.
Thank you, Susan.
You ready for the next slide?
Yeah. Okay. So the second lottery is really not a second lottery for families who participate in the first lottery. You do not submit applications again. You will just remain on a process. The second lottery is for families who missed the first lottery so that they can participate. It is also for families who are outside of the district. And I'll talk a little bit about families who are outside of PUSD after I talk about resident students. So resident students would be students who live in Pasadena, Altadena, and Sierra Madre. So here's the dates of when you'd be notified. Again, the second lottery, you'll be assigned a number based on your placement. And then families will have a certain amount of time to register once they are placed in a school. And again, they will remain on wait lists for their higher preference school until 2 weeks before school starts. Please check your email, because you will only have a short amount of time once you're notified of a space to register. We also can't predict what your chances will be for being accepted into your top choice. But last year, more than 98% of families who listed at least 3 schools and participated in the lottery were placed at one of their top 2 choices. So don't wait until August to decide, oh, we really wanted to participate and go to a different school. It's going to be really hard to get accepted after the lottery process takes place. We can't guarantee the same results for this year, but it does seem like if you stick with the process, you will likely get one of your choices. Okay, this is just to make sure everybody's paying attention, right? So again, you need to participate in open enrollment if you want to attend any TK program, any K-12 school or program that isn't your neighborhood school. And that includes any dual language immersion program. It includes Marshall. And that also includes Math Academy, which is the advanced math program for students transitioning from 5th to 6th grade. And that will be at Octavia Butler Middle School and Sierra Madre Middle School. Okay, now there is what's called a neighborhood preference. So Marshall Field, which is the Mandarin program, and San Rafael, which is Spanish, do not have attendance boundaries. That means that no one is assigned to attend those schools. As a result, those schools plus the DLIT programs at Altadena, Jackson, and Longfellow reserve 50% of their available seats for families who reside within what is called a neighborhood preference zone. You do not need to indicate that you are in the preference zone when you submit your open enrollment application. However, in order to get the neighborhood preference, you do need to list that school as your first choice. Also, you will have an opportunity when you submit your open enrollment application to submit your proof of residence. So that again will make sure that if you are in a neighborhood preference and you want to go to one of those schools, that you will get priority for that. In the rare instance that there are more students in the preference zone than seats available, then families will also have a second chance in the general lottery to be assigned to a school. Okay, so how many seats will be available? The short answer is that we don't know yet. Projections are made based on enrollment trends, historic information, the number of siblings who enroll. So if there are a lot of siblings enrolling, then there'll be fewer spaces because they do get priority. I will say that it is unlikely that this year that Sierra Madre Middle School will have spaces available because of the number of siblings and students going there from the dual language immersion Mandarin program and from residents of Sierra Madre. So keep that in mind. When it's time to register, new students only will need to upload their documents. We are happy to report that if you are currently a PUSD student, you will not need to upload all your information again in order to register. Next slide, Susan, please.
Sorry.
If you prefer to register in person, that you can contact the school and make arrangements to do that. Secondary students who are coming from another school district will need to submit their transcripts also.
Anything else?
This is more informational for you. There is a priority and sibling application. The time has passed for that for this year, but for next year, if you have a younger sibling coming in, they can submit an application for priority in October and November. So that takes place earlier. And that also is for students who are continuing in a program. So if you're in a dual language immersion elementary school and you want to continue to middle school, you get priority time to do that before the open enrollment period. The same thing with the International Baccalaureate program and students who are in magnet and signature programs who want to continue in those for middle and high school. If you live outside of PUSD's boundaries, you can submit an inter-district application during the second lottery timeframe, which starts January 25th. You can then be added to the wait list after resident students have been placed. Now, you should contact your home school district to find out about what time frame they require you to submit a request to be released, because you will need to be released from your home district in order to attend a PUSD school. There are a couple of reasons why districts will release students. Keep in mind that districts receive their money based on the number of students, so they're really not excited to release you. They will do it if you're attending a program that your home district does not offer. Also, if you work for the school district, possibly if you work in the city, your home district will release you. But you should check to find out what they require and what reasons they will accept. You do not need to be released before you're accepted into a PUSD school. Now, if you're an employee of the city of Pasadena or PUSD, you can also participate in the regular lottery, even if you live outside of Pasadena, Altadena, or Sierra Madre. You don't need to wait for the second lottery. So we're going to take questions, so you can feel free. We can take them from you live, or you can type them in the chat. I do want to also mention that if you have a student who is a special needs student with an IEP, then you can indicate this on the application so that staff can ensure that your students' needs will be met at the schools where you select.
Okay. So I'm gonna stop sharing this presentation now so that we can look at the chat and take questions. But I do just want to mention that, and I'll drop these links into the chat as well, that we really appreciate your feedback. So we have a short participant survey that we hope you'll do after this is done or when you're ready to sign off. Thank you. Go ahead and stop sharing. And let's see, there were a couple questions in the chat. So one question, and this may be a good one for Shannon Mumolo to answer, is what if we put down 3 to 4 schools for TK and get waitlisted at all of them and still haven't been placed once the summer rolls around?
Sure, that's a really great question. So you can always call the Office of Enrollment and we could add additional schools to your application. TK is going to be very popular this year. So if you're concerned that those 3 or 4 schools you're listing might also be popular schools or have a lot of neighborhood students, then I would definitely include more than 3 or 4 schools on your application. You can actually list up to 15 schools. You can list all of the TK programs. So I would definitely include as many as you're willing to consider, because if you call us in the summer, there's a less of a chance we'll be able to offer you placement at another school with that late addition.
And then there was a follow-up question related to that, which was, is there any advantage to waiting until another year until kindergarten, because there may be more spots in kindergarten than in TK?
No, there's no advantage to waiting. You can, let's say you want a particular TK and you don't get a spot there, it fills up. You can attend a different TK in PUSD and then apply again for kinder just like everyone else. So there's really no advantage to waiting.
And then there was one other question about how do we find out our neighborhood preference zones? And basically the answer to that is that if you're looking at a school which is basically Field, San Rafael or Marshall, as I understand it, the preference zone is roughly a half-mile radius of the location of the campus, and the lottery process, by virtue of sort of reading your address, essentially knows whether you're in that preference zone or not. And if I haven't put that very clearly, Shannon, if you want to elucidate, but that's the basic idea.
Yeah, if you go to pusd.us/find my school, it'll show you this is your neighborhood school for elementary, neighborhood school for middle, neighborhood school for high school. If you happen to live in a preference zone for a lottery only school, it'll also show you that you have those schools as neighborhood preference. But as Susan mentioned and Nancy mentioned earlier, it's not something you have to think about or worry about. Based on the address that you enter on the application, the lottery system recognizes if you qualify for that preference or not.
Okay. Let's see. So then there was a question. I'm just going to make sure I didn't miss any here. Going up this. Okay. So is there any difference when you apply during the open enrollment period? No. As long as you get your application submitted before 4 o'clock on the last day, and you better not wait until the very last minute in case you have some technical difficulties, but there is no, it does not matter when during that period you submit your application. And it is all done online. And there was what if you get placed and then move out of PUSD but would like to stay? Ooh.
You can do that. You can stay, and then when it comes time for you to transition, like from elementary to middle or middle to high school, you would need, most districts want you to then get released. Is that accurate, Shannon?
Yes, and there's more. So if you get an offer for a PUSD school, let's say in March, and then in April you move out of PUSD, you then live out of our district and you do have to get a release from the district that you're moving to and an approved permit to enter PUSD. So the best thing to do if you move out of PUSD is to call the Office of Enrollment to get guidance. But the next step after that will really be to contact your residing district and ask when their inter-district permit window opens, so you know when you can start to request that permission to accept the offer and actually enroll in Pasadena when school starts.
Is that the case that if you're already in a PUSD school, so you move like when you're in second grade?
If you're already in a PUSD school, let's say you're in second grade and then you move, you do have to update your address with the office, and you do have to contact your residing district, your new residing district, to get official permission to stay in PUSD. It's a really good reason to want to stay. Most districts are going to be really supportive of that reason and approve your request. And that includes PUSD on our end, approving for you to stay as well. But it is an additional step that you would need to take to make sure you have the proper paperwork in order for your child to continue in the district.
Okay. I'm just got several questions here. Let's make sure I didn't miss any up above. Okay. There's some questions about dual language, but I want to get to this one, which was about TK first. Are you guaranteed a spot at a PUSD school for TK if you live in the district?
Also a great question. If you apply and you include all of the TK programs in PUSD, we're going to have a spot for you. If, however, you wait and you apply very late, or you only include one choice, that's not something that we could guarantee. So my best advice, if you want a guaranteed spot, is to include all of the TK programs on your application and apply during the first lottery.
All right. So let me see.
Can I add to that, Susan?
Sure, absolutely.
So just like there's neighborhood preference for lottery-only schools, neighborhood students will be prioritized for their TK program. So if you live closest to Webster, that's your neighborhood school for TK, neighborhood students will be placed first before we open it up to lottery students.
Okay. And you don't have to indicate that, it'll just be, it will be obvious from their address.
It's automatic based on the address you enter. Just remember that eventually you're going to have to provide verification of that address. So if you move or something changes, your offer may become invalid. So make sure you enter the correct address and you provide your proof of address where it is requested.
Okay. So a couple of dual language questions. How does the process work for dual language immersion schools and native speaker ratios? How is native speaker defined? And that's an evergreen question. It comes up every year, and it's a good question. So I'll let you respond.
Okay, awesome.
Because you're here, you can do it better than me.
Yeah, so in Pasadena Unified School District, our dual language immersion programs are considered two-way programs. So the goal is that we have a balance of students who are modeling the English language for English learners. And on the flip side, a balance of students who are modeling the target language, whether it's Spanish, French, Mandarin, for students who are newly learning that language. In the past, we used to call, the lotteries native speaker, non-native speaker. We don't ask that anymore. Really, the best question to ask yourself is my child mostly an English learner or mostly a target language learner? What is your child's dominant language? What is the language that they'll be most comfortable speaking? Because if we're thinking of them as being a model for another student who's learning that language, if they're mostly speaking in English, then I would say their dominant language is English. If they're mostly speaking in Spanish, their dominant language is Spanish, for example. So we do ask, what is your child's dominant language or primary language? Even if your child is bilingual, if you were to ask them a question, what would they most commonly respond to, or what language they would most commonly respond to? We don't have a separate native speaker or non-native speaker lottery. We do ask that question to help us achieve that balance, but that's not something that you have to worry about on your end as an applicant. You just need to answer the questions honestly. And if you're not sure you have any questions, you can always call our office and we can give more guidance.
Okay, that's great. Thanks. All right. Does the Mandarin DLIP continue at Sierra Madre Middle? Yes, it does. And also, does getting into Sierra Madre Elementary give you any advantage to continue into Sierra Madre Middle? And my understanding is that if you are at Sierra Madre Elementary School on permit, it is not your neighborhood school, but you got in through open enrollment, you do not have priority to of any kind to enroll in Sierra Madre Middle. However, if you are in the Mandarin dual language immersion program, and want to continue that program, you do get priority based on the program to enroll at Sierra Madre Middle. Okay. All right, this is a good one. If you go through the open enrollment process and accept one of the schools you are placed at, but then decide to go back to your neighborhood school, can you withdraw from open enrollment and then just enroll in your home school? And I think the answer is yes, but there's probably a caveat in terms of timing. So maybe you want to.
You're absolutely right. So yes, you can withdraw and go to your neighborhood school as long as your neighborhood school still has space. So if you're going to be making changes or you change your mind about what school you want, it's best to do that earlier in the process while there's a likelihood of seats still being available. I think the grade where we're going to be most impacted is transitional kindergarten. So if you are considering your neighborhood school for transitional kindergarten, that's a safe bet. I would put that as my first choice and enroll.
Let's see. Okay. What grade range is Marshall? That is 6th grade through 12th grade. There's both a middle and a high school program. And you can enter at different grade levels. You don't have to have been there during middle school to apply for high school there. Is PUSD expecting higher levels of enrollment this year compared to others?
I'm going to chime in and then Shannon can chime in. So supposedly, based on the current population in our community, there are fewer school-aged children, lower birth rates. So there should be fewer students enrolling. However, that being said, a higher percentage of students who live in the community are attending public school. And based on the number of people that have been at our programs this year, I will say that we've had the most people attend our programs since we've been doing this. So I think that bodes well for families, for the district, and that what the decline might be going forward.
Yeah. There's a question here about with IEPs. So if a family knows, I know you mentioned something about this earlier, so I'm not sure if I missed it, but if a family with a young child, 4 years old, already has an IEP, how would they proceed in terms of choosing the school choices they might make? Do they need to check with the special education department to find out which schools would be able to serve their child, and sort of what's the timing on that as well in terms of how the open enrollment process works?
Yeah, so when families apply online for the lottery, we ask if your child has an IEP, and if so, what program. Does your child need speech services? Are they in a resource program? Are they in a special day class? Or is it something else, or you're not sure? So when you say, yes, my child is in special education, a little message will pop up and it'll tell you two things. One is what Susan mentioned. You can call the special education office, you can share the copy of your child's IEP plan, and then they can let you know which schools offer the services that your child needs. In most cases, there's very common services like speech and resource programs are offered at almost all of our schools, if not all of our schools. It's really special day classes or really specialized services that I would highly recommend calling the special education office, and they can tell you where those services are provided. You'll also want to contact the special education office so that they can get to know your student and do the proper intake process. In terms of the lottery, we will make an offer based on your selections alone, with the caveat that your child's final placement is always going to be based on the services that they need and where those services are offered. So you might receive an offer for your first choice. If the program that your child needs is not offered at that first choice, then the special education office will work with you for a placement that best meets your child's needs.
Thank you. All right. So then can you accept a placement through the open lottery at a charter? No, the open enrollment process that we've been talking about is only for Pasadena Unified School District schools. So although charters are publicly funded and tuition free, they have their own application processes and their own lotteries or however they do their admissions. So you really need to check individually with any charter school you might be considering to find out how they do that. And I think typically the timing is fairly well aligned, although I don't know that for a fact. Maybe somebody else does. But it
Well,
is
I
a
think-
separate process.
I think what they may be asking is, can you accept a spot at PUSD and at a charter? I mean, you can do that, but we hope you won't, because that seat can be going to somebody who will actually attend the school.
Right. Okay, so regarding TK, will any schools be getting an additional class? I think there may be some schools that do have more than one TK classroom. I think there are. But I don't know. I don't know that that really affects your application process. If you start with your neighborhood school or your local school, where you have the best chance of being admitted, and then list as many other schools as you would be willing to attend, whether a particular school has one TK class or two is not going to really affect your chances because it is a lottery. Is that accurate?
Yeah, you're totally right. So there's some schools that already have two. There are some schools that will add an additional class because we're expecting more transitional kindergartners this year. But what Susan said is the most important thing. You want to list the schools that you want in the order that you want, regardless of how many seats they plan to open, because things can change. If we see high demand, enough demand to open a second kinder or TK class at a school where there's room to do so, applications might influence the actions that we take as a district. So it's really important to just list your true preferences and apply for the schools that would interest you in your order of preference. And if there's, a possibility to accommodate more students by opening a second class, it's something that we could consider.
Okay. Just going back to make sure I haven't missed anything. Does the sibling priority guarantee placement for siblings into the same school? So there's two different things. There's same age siblings. If you are applying, let's say you have twins and they're the same, they're applying for the same grade at the same time, you would submit an application for each of them, and as Nancy said, list your preferences in the same order, list the same schools in the same order for both applications. And then if one comes up earlier and gets offered a placement, the other one will be offered the same placement. Is that an accurate description?
As long as there's still space. So the answer is no, that's not a guarantee, but we definitely want to place siblings together wherever possible.
And then there was another thing, there's another sibling priority program, and that was for when you have a siblings who are not in the same grade. So let's say you apply and you enroll your child in a particular school or in a particular specialty program, and then you have a younger sibling coming along the next year, or even an older sibling who's at a different school. As long as the child who is already at that school, who is admitted to that school, is still going to be there the following year, then you are able to pretty much guarantee placement for their sibling to come in and join them the following.
Yes.
As long as
there's space. The big challenge is always going to be transitional kindergarten. So if for some reason we have more siblings than seats available, it's not a guarantee, but it's a very good chance.
Fair.
Can I just unmute to ask, is that also for the DLIP programs? So let's say you get an English speaker into one of the either TK or kindergarten DLIP Spanish, let's say. and then their younger sibling is ready to go into TK and or kindergarten, and they want to also be in the Spanish so that they're learning together. Is that the same or is that different?
The same.
Okay, I mean, you really try to get them in there, but of course it always depends on space.
I guess the main point is you have priority in terms of time because that sibling application happens ahead of the general lottery. It happens in the fall.
I
So-
see. I see. So there are more spaces, obviously. I see. Thank you.
Right. Okay, if we are on wait list for multiple schools and we get accepted off the wait list at, say, your third school. So, well, let me say, make sure. You will, okay, so let's say you get accepted to your third choice. You would go ahead and accept that choice that you were offered. And unless you withdraw your other waitlisted choices, you would remain waitlisted for your first and second choice schools until the process ends, basically at the beginning of August. Let's see. Make sure I didn't miss anything back here. No, okay. I'm going down. Lots of really great questions here. Okay, a couple questions about after-school programs. So are before and after school programs available to view online if a school has one, what the pricing is, and basically the after school programs, there is information, I think some information on our website as well as on the PUSD website about the after school programs. And so the difference might be, for example, with before school supervision, or an additional sort of before school program for the late start schools. So that handful of schools that starts at 8:45 instead of 7:45 have an option for before school care that is through the same program as the after school program, the Learns program. And I believe Learns program is at every school. Yes.
Learns is at every school for after school and at every late start school for before care. When you apply online during open enrollment and you select your schools, the school's hours and whether or not they have before and after care is included as part of the description. That's specific to PUSD's expanded learning program, which is called Pasadena Learns. Some schools offer multiple programs at the same location. So for example, a school might have Pasadena Parks and Recreation, they call it After School Adventures. Pasadena Learns, they might have Boys and Girls Club pickup. So it is school dependent in terms of the wealth of program offerings that are available to you. In February, the Office of Family Engagement, my office will be hosting an event called Summer Splash. If you apply online during open enrollment, we'll be sending you an invitation to Summer Splash, and it's an opportunity to meet all of the after-school providers in one place, because many of our summer program providers also provide aftercare at our school sites. So that's a good way to get to talk to people. The other thing that I would do once you have an offer for school is ask the school directly which programs are offered there, just to be sure.
And also ask them when the applications will become available to, I think typically it's around May.
Yeah, I would
But you want to
start
find
checking in
out, you want
May.
to find out when the application period is. So once you know what school your child is going to be attending, you want to be on that to make sure you get an application in early for the after school program.
So that application for the after school program is a separate than the open enrollment as well. Is that what I'm hearing? Okay,
Yes.
great. Thank you for letting me.
So I guess we had, all right, we had that question about the wait lists. Okay. So the Summer Splash event, we will definitely put that on our calendar as soon as we get the information from the Family and Community Engagement Office at PUSD. But you said it's in February?
It'll be in mid-February. We're just finalizing the date, but we will send that information to Penn to distribute. We'll put it on our website, and we will be emailing it to every applicant for open enrollment so we can get as many people as possible to be aware of it and participate.
Yeah. Great. Okay, I feel like I got, oh, here's a new message, okay. I'm gonna just post, I'm gonna go back and just share my screen again and hope that, and ask, those of you who are here to please, take a few minutes to give us some feedback on the program. It's a very short survey, but we really do appreciate any comments that you have. And it's available in English and in Spanish. And yeah, any other questions? We will be posting the recording link as well as the slides from this program on our, we'll post it on our website under programs, program materials. And we will also send an email out to everybody who registered for this program so that you'll get that in your inbox with the links in another few days or so. But thank you so much. Really appreciate you participating.
And we'll be here for a few minutes if anybody wants to ask any additional questions. And we'll see you on the tours.
Oh, and maybe we should mention our next Sunday.
Oh, yes.
We will be, if you've had enough of this little Zoom squares and you want to actually have some FaceTime with us or with each other or with other parents who have kids in the schools now, we will be at oh God, Wild Parrot Brewing Company on Colorado, and that's on our website as well. So we hope you'll let us know if you're interested and join us for a little social time Sunday afternoon.
I do have one more
And-
question.
Uh-huh.
I know we've talked about siblings and sibling priority. Now, what if you have two students that you're trying to enroll into the same program? However, one is TK, one is kinder. The kinder is not already in an existing school. Is it the same kind of advice that you've given? Just continue to list all of the schools that you want. Don't limit it to a handful in hopes that, you know, the odds of getting placed, especially in TK, and will they get placed together? Or since they're separate applications, would that be viewed separately?
Because they're not applying for the same grade, availability is really based on the grade. There might be, for example, 24 seats open in transitional kindergarten and 75 in kindergarten. So in that situation, it's more likely the kindergartner would receive a placement at that school, and the TKer may not be placed with them together just because of space constraints. The following year, however, that sibling would qualify for sibling priority so that they could return together. If for any reason students aren't placed together, they will qualify for sibling priority the following year. The other thing I would do is just call the Office of Enrollment, just to put it on our radar that the children are siblings. We still have to follow the lottery placement process, and we couldn't give any special preference or priority outside of those guidelines. But sometimes it's helpful to know and keep our eyes out to make sure that where possible, siblings are placed together.
Okay, wonderful. That's really helpful. Thank you.
And we will share the Office of Enrollment contact information in our email when we send that follow-up email. I think it's on the slides as well.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right.
All right, I have one more question about the after-school program. Since I have you guys are a wealth of knowledge. I just wanted to verify those are also not guaranteed slots.
Correct.
Okay, got it. So that's really okay. Thank you.
I think it does really help if you get an application in early, and some schools their programs are a little more impacted than others. So it might be something to ask the school site just to, kind of get a sense of that, as well as any auxiliary programs that they might have going on at that
Well,
site.
Yeah, so they have more than one program. If you don't get in one, you may be able to get into another. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right. Do we have any other questions?
There was just one about the required age for students to attend school. I answered in the chat, but if I misunderstood the question or something, maybe Kitty can unmute.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I know this is kind of a weird question, but so if you have a child who is that mid-September birthday, if they are not 6 by 9/1, then they would not legally have to start school until they were about to turn 7. Correct?
So
Is
the,
it by 9/1?
That, yes, I think that's right, because if they are not 6 by September 1st, it would be kindergarten that they would be entering, and kindergarten is not a mandatory grade in California.
Exactly.
However,
Okay.
the following year, they wouldn't go into kindergarten, they would go into first grade.
They'd go into first grade. There's no choice there. It's not about level or anything. It's just right to first.
Pretty much.
Great. Yeah. Okay.
You know,
Good
I
to
mean,
know.
if there is, there may be some, you know, once you enroll, if there's a feeling on the part of
If they're like way
teacher
behind or
that
something.
this is really the wrong placement, there could be a discussion about that.
No,
but
no, no.